There exists a place where all things abide by pure chaos. A place where your very survival requires you to be always on your toes. And of course, to always expect the unexpected. Whether it's in the early dawn or the dead of midnight, a place of constant grind and hustle that truly never sleeps. A place of both high risk and high reward for those who are down to play the game. And this place, none other than my hometown, New York City. In some of my videos, I focus on escaping this place that at times could be a true living hell. But in this one, we're gonna dive straight into the chaos and once again, outride New York City. As most of you know, I live by the code of ride early and ride often. So the moon was still out with the sun rising, bouncing off the Empire State as I cruised down Cypress. If this mural was any bit prophetic, then it looked like it was going to be another beautiful day in Bushwick, and I took this as a good omen as I started the bike and prepared my descent into true concrete madness. The sun wasn't even fully up as I started the bike, so my Moon's MC Fly-Eye V2 headlight came in clutch as always. These gloves from Maroon Outdoor keep me covered while allowing me to simultaneously cosplay as Jack the Skeleton King. I always like to stop for a moment and gaze down these tracks with the sun rising in the distance. It makes me think back to something that Barrett had said back to me back in 1997 when we were on this mission. It was a quote that went something like, "A train can only go where its tracks take it." Well, I guess you could say I've been trying to lay down the right tracks for my entire life, and it was finally starting to pay off as I looked down at yet another dream bike. The Kosciuszko was majestic in the morning light as always, but the true highlight would be watching the skyline rise as I entered the end of the line on the 495, aka the Long Island Expressway.
There's nothing express about that. That's the biggest lie in history.
The moon was still high in the sky, and that soft light was bouncing off of the massive sheet of concrete ahead of me. The Mega Millions and Powerball, a bright beacon of false hope for the mathematically illiterate out there. Seriously guys, it's a 1 in 302.6 million chance. Are you f***ing kidding me? You have a better chance of getting struck by lightning, so save your money and head on over to J&P Cycles and buy some bike parts. You'll thank me later. Being surrounded by LED lights in every direction makes it start to feel like you're in Tron, and honestly, makes you even forget where you are for a moment. But when this tunnel spits you out, you're reminded exactly where you are, straight in the heart of Fear City itself. I stopped by Grand Central, marveling that this timeless architecture is in my backyard. I don't stick around for too long, because I don't want Will Smith to come out and slap me.
He was such a nice guy back when he was chilling with Carlton.
In the early light, the neon and LED lighting hits in a way that words can't really describe. This is probably the chillest and most still you'll find Times Square, and even in these early morning hours, the chaos was already beginning to churn. As always, I park the bike and just take it all in. Under the endless glow of lights, the non-stop hustle and grind was evident even in these early hours. Anyone else would have gotten kicked out for parking a bike over here, but I got to meet the head of security here years ago when I was on my FXR, who it turned out had a son that was a fan of my YouTube channel. Ever since then, no one really bothers me when I roll through here. It's moments like this where I could understand why this is probably the most popular tourist destination in my hometown. I've ridden across this country and back multiple times, and I gotta say, there's just no place like this. New York, at times, can truly be a living hell, but I'd be damned if it doesn't have its moments. I said farewell to some of the guys on the block who were fascinated by the drone that I had up, and as always, visited the iconic neon flag, reminding me that only in America could such a place exist. Speaking of New York moments, when you roll through town with a bike that's as loud both aesthetically and audibly as this one, you tend to get recognized. And as I shot this pan and clip, I heard my name, and it was none other than Wilson from the Cursed Six crew. You've definitely seen him before in my videos.
Oh, there he is.
So those of us who live and survive in the outer boroughs don't really come to Manhattan very much unless we have to. But this ride stood as a reminder of why I should come out here more these days. It was time to throw the kickstand up and head back to Brooklyn. I cruised down 7th Avenue before making my way east to head down 2nd Avenue. Cruising across the Manhattan Bridge as the sun gets higher in the sky with the backdrop of the city falling behind you never fails to be invigorating. So invigorating that I suddenly felt the urge to wait on a legendary endless line for some of the finest pastries in Brooklyn. My shadow was getting long on the BQE, so it was time to head to none other than Radio Brooklyn. Moments later, I've arrived in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. I parked the bike, locked my helmet, and prepared to throw my soul into the endless hell that awaited, known as the morning line at Radio Brooklyn. This is essentially like being sent to the wall, or maybe the stockades in Stormwind, or that desert prison in Final Fantasy VIII. Meaning to say, you're gonna be here for a while. Moments turn into hours. Hours into days. Days into years. Years into an eternity. But God, those pastries look so good. But the void is so lonely. But it might be worth it. One eternity later, with my soul flayed down to the core, I stood upon true New York City glory, which is of course, Radio Brooklyn stocked with the greatest hits. Yeah, I'm talking about smoked salmon on that fresh focaccia with a little bit of dill, that chocolate almond croissant, and of course, the legendary cinnamon roll. In total, it cost me more than my bike knew, but sometimes that's the price you pay to live and survive in New York City. With the mission achieved, I loaded the bike up with the true glory in the form of pastries and progressed further into Brooklyn. My last stop being none other than Variety Coffee. In my crew, most of us don't throw back beers after the good miles, preferring a more high-octane beverage of choice. Variety Coffee in Brooklyn never disappoints. As I drank my coffee reverently, marveling at how far this bike had come within the span of 2 years, I felt true gratitude for the miles of the day. New York City is by far one of the hardest riding environments you're going to find in the United States. But if you could roll and thrive within that chaos, you might just experience moments and miles simply like none other. That night, the sunset was absolutely beautiful, and believe it or not, there's actually a comet in the sky. I took this as a good omen for the miles to come. So anyway, that's it for this one. If you enjoyed this one, be sure to like and subscribe, and as always, we do have some of the finest merch available for those who are down to put in the hard miles. Stay safe, outride your demons, crush city miles, and consume good pastries and coffee. On that, FXDLS Brooklyn is out.
Goodbye.